In a small village nestled among rolling green hills, where time seemed to move slower and people knew each other by name, lived a young man named Paul. In his early 20s, he carried on his shoulders a determination that impressed everyone around him. He was the kind of person who woke up before sunrise, worked until late at night, and never backed down from a challenge. Paul had achieved many things in his young life. He was respected at work, had built a house with his own hands, and was admired for his relentless perseverance. But behind all these apparent successes, there was an emptiness he couldn't fill. No matter how hard he fought, no matter what he conquered, a constant feeling of dissatisfaction followed him like a shadow. Every night before going to sleep, Paul questioned himself, why, even when I achieve everything I desire, do I still feel incomplete? Why this feeling that something is always missing? He had tried everything, working harder, gaining more recognition, accumulating more possessions, but nothing seemed to quench this inner thirst. It was then that he heard about Amadeus, an elderly man who lived in a simple cabin at the edge of the forest. The village people told fascinating stories about this man. They said he possessed ancestral wisdom and a unique ability to teach the deepest life lessons through seemingly simple, almost playful methods. Some called him eccentric, others enlightened, but everyone agreed on one thing: those who sought his teachings never left the same way. On a summer morning, when dew still covered the grass and birds were beginning to wake, Paul decided the time had come. He walked along the trail leading to Amadeus's house, feeling his heart beat strongly, carrying with him all his anxieties and questions. The wise man's cabin was simple, made of rustic wood and surrounded by a lush garden where flowers of every color danced in the wind. Amadeus received him on the porch, a man with snow-white hair, deep eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, and a smile that radiated contagious peace. "Mr. Amadeus," said Paul, his voice heavy with vulnerability, "I came here because I'm lost. I fight tirelessly for everything in life, I achieve my goals, but in the end, I never feel truly satisfied. It's as if there's a hole in my soul that nothing can fill. Please, teach me the secret of genuine happiness." Amadeus observed the young man in silence for a few moments, as if reading his soul. Then, with that characteristic smile, he replied, "My dear Paul, I can indeed help you find what you're looking for. But first, you must complete a task that may seem strange yet is fundamental." The elder led Paul to the back of his property, where there was an ancient stone well and, beside it, a wooden bucket already worn by time. "For exactly 1 week," explained Amadeus, "you must go to the river that's 2 miles from here, fill this bucket with water, cross the deserted road that cuts through the forest, and bring the water to this well. There's just one small detail: the bucket has some holes." Paul examined the bucket and noticed several small holes scattered across its surface. "But sir, with these holes, the water will leak during the journey. How will I manage to fill the well?" "That's exactly the point," replied Amadeus with a mysterious gleam in his eyes. "Trust the process." Intrigued, but driven by the hope of finally finding the answers he had been seeking, Paul accepted the challenge. The next day, early in the morning, he began his daily journey. Every morning, Paul walked to the crystal-clear river, filled the leaky bucket with fresh water, and started the long walk back. The road was arid and dusty, cutting through a desolate landscape that looked like a desert in miniature. The summer sun beat down mercilessly, and Paul felt sweat trickling down his face as he carried the heavy bucket. During the journey, he watched, frustrated, as water dripped through the holes, forming small puddles that were soon absorbed by the dry earth. With each step, the bucket became lighter, but also emptier. When he finally reached Amadeus's well, only a third of the water he had collected remained. The first few days were the most difficult. Paul felt as if he was failing miserably. His perfectionist nature tortured him. How can I be doing something right if I'm losing most of the water along the way? But something deep inside prevented him from giving up. Perhaps it was confidence in Amadeus's words, or perhaps an intuition that there was something greater behind this seemingly senseless task. As the days passed, something began to change. Paul noticed he was less anxious during the walks. He began to pay attention to the sounds of nature around him, the singing of birds, the whisper of wind through the leaves. The initial frustration gave way to a curious serenity. He still bothered by the water that was lost, but he had learned to accept that it was part of the process. On the seventh and final day, Paul made his final walk. He arrived at Amadeus's house carrying the bucket with the little water that remained, feeling discouraged. The well remained practically empty, and he was certain he had failed the mission. "Mr. Amadeus," said Paul with his head down, "I tried all week, but I couldn't fill your well. I think I wasn't capable of completing the task." To his surprise, Amadeus received him with the warmest of smiles and said, "My dear young man, you completed your mission absolutely spectacularly. I've never seen anyone succeed so well at this task." Paul raised his head, confused. "But how, sir? The well is practically empty." "Ah, my dear Paul," said Amadeus with his eyes shining with wisdom, "you're looking in the wrong place. Turn around and look at the path you've walked all these days." Intrigued, Paul turned and looked toward the road he had traveled so many times. What he saw left him speechless. The trail that had once been arid, dry, and lifeless was now completely transformed. Along the entire route, life had sprouted: green grass, vibrant wildflowers, small bushes, and even some young trees. The road had become a corridor of natural beauty, a true wild garden. "The water you thought you were losing," explained Amadeus gently, "was actually creating life with every step. Each drop that fell through the bucket's holes was nourishing the earth, planting seeds of hope, generating beauty where once there was only desolation." Paul felt tears of understanding well up in his eyes. Amadeus continued, "My young friend, life is exactly like this leaky bucket. We all have imperfections, limitations, holes in our existence. We may have character flaws, physical limitations, past traumas, or simply the inability to be perfect in everything we do. And it's natural that, like you, we feel frustrated with these imperfections. But here's the secret you came to seek: true happiness isn't about eliminating all our flaws or reaching a state of absolute perfection. It's about understanding that, even with our holes, even with our limitations, we can create beauty and positively impact the world around us." During this week, you learned that the process is as important as the final result. Each step of the journey, even when it seemed like you were failing, was actually creating something beautiful. Your lost water gave life to this road. Your imperfect efforts generated a miracle. Paul began to understand. "So when I feel dissatisfied with my achievements, it's because you're focusing only on the empty well, ignoring the entire garden you created along the way," completed Amadeus. Genuine happiness is born when we learn to value not just our destinations, but every step of the journey. When we recognize that our efforts, even when imperfect, leave trails of beauty and positive impact in the world. Your previous achievements, Paul, weren't failures because they didn't bring you lasting happiness. They were planted seeds, experiences that shaped your character, learnings that brought you here. What you thought was dissatisfaction was actually your soul telling you that there's more to life than simply accumulating achievements. At that moment, Paul felt a profound transformation happen within him. The constant anxiety that had accompanied him for years began to dissolve, replaced by a sense of peace and purpose he had never experienced. Paul's story isn't just a parable, it's a mirror of the human journey we all face. Like him, you might be carrying a leaky bucket, feeling that your efforts are never enough, that something is always missing. But what if I told you that your holes are exactly what the world needs? Stop right now and reflect. What water have you been spilling along the way? What lives have you touched? What beauty have you created without even realizing it? Your imperfections aren't obstacles, they're channels through which your unique essence can flow and transform the world around you. Don't wait any longer to discover the garden you're already planting. Accept your imperfections. Embrace your journey. Trust the process. Your happiness isn't in the empty well of the future, it's blooming now, with every step you take, with every drop of love, effort, and authenticity you pour along the way. The time is now. Your road is waiting to flourish. If this story touched your heart like it touched mine, I have a special request: don't let this lesson die here. Think about how many people around you are like Paul was, struggling, achieving, but feeling empty inside. How many of your friends are focused only on the empty well, and can't see the beautiful garden they're already creating? Hit that like if you connected with this message. Share in the comments, which moment in the story impacted you the most. And please, share this story. Every person who reads this could be the next one to discover that their imperfections are actually their greatest gift to the world. Your act of sharing could be the drop of water that makes someone's life flourish. Because sometimes, the most powerful thing we can do is simply pass along a lesson that can change a life forever. What beautiful road will you start to make flourish today?